Hello and welcome. This is Playing Favorites. I'm Justin.
I'm Paul.
And we did it, Paul. We got through all the episodes of Wheel Time.
We did.
Season 1. You just think, you know, the last 20 years, you've only read the first 3 chapters of a book.
Was it even 3? It felt like 1.5. Considering where it is in the story, do even people remember when this happened in the show?
I don't know.
But yes, it was a while ago.
Yes, but you've come so far. You know, you've learned a lot. I hear on the back end that you have lots of questions, but we'll get to all those questions soon. Just if you haven't been,
questions.
What's that?
From the back and the front, yes, I've got questions.
But today's episode is our finale of the review of Wheel of Time. If you haven't been following the series, we've been kind of recapping all the episodes since episode 1. So you can go check all those out on our YouTube channel or podcast services. We have a lot of other stuff, too, that we generally do. We just actually released our most recent podcast favorite video game remake, remaster, reboot. Check that out as well. You know, like, subscribe, follow us, comment, let us know how we're doing. I think you have to put a comment in our YouTube channel just to get people to see us more. So there's some weird math equation there. So just say something, anything. I don't care. Put an exclamation point. But that's...
Please tell us you disagree.
Yeah. If you don't like what we have to say, just let us know, and we will just tell you that you're wrong.
What we do best.
But we have to get right to it. I want to just kind of quickly go through. We have a lot to talk about. A lot of information in the last 2 episodes of Wheel Time series.
Yes. A lot of cool places too.
A lot of cool places, a lot of cool things. Episode 7. What's the name of it? It was like The Ways. What's the name of that one?
The Darkness of the Ways, I believe, or the Dark of the Ways.
The Darkness of the Ways, or Darkness.
Yes.
Oh boy, I just had it. The Dark Along the Ways.
The Dark Along the Ways. Yeah.
Along the Ways.
Really, really. Let's dive right into it. I really thought this was an excellent episode.
Yep, my favorite one.
Right from the get-go, yes, I would agree. This is up there, if not the best episode of the first season. Just because you get so much is packed in here, so you learn about Lan's past, which is really cool. It's very interesting to hear about,
scene. Amazing scene to start off the episode, right?
Oh yes, the cold open of this warrior woman just destroying these soldiers, and
pregnant.
She's in labor. She's in labor.
She's in labor. Yeah.
The only reason that she's slowed down is to go through a contraction. She is, wiping the floor with these guys. But the only thing that's actually a detriment is the fact that she's literally about to give birth. And then you see that it ends up being Rand's father there, Tan, and how he helped her. I love that part. He puts the sword down and is like, here's 2 hands. This is the universal sign of I will help you with your birth.
Yep.
So,
I wish there was more action scenes like this one in the show. To be quite honest,
amazing.
I guess I read some backstory on this particular actress they picked. She's really they saw her at some Prague showing. She's some stunt woman that does amazing work. And they're just we have that is spoilers, that's Rand's mother. That is the dragon's mother, as we find out.
That's the stock that he comes from. Yeah.
That scene's awesome because it is not described that way in the book whatsoever. It's yes, he was born on a mountaintop, and yes, Tam found her, and yes, she is a warrior because all Ale women are warriors. Because that was an Ale woman. She's part of the warrior group, but I cannot remember the name of the group. I probably eventually strike, but there's the warrior unit.
Tenebra?
Was
that the name? Tenebra? That was the name that somebody said at the end of the...
I think that's her name. I don't remember. It's been a while. Okay. But anyways. Awesome scene. Awesome way to start. Tam looked different. Did they do any de-aging of him? He looked weird.
I think they did it with makeup. I don't think they did it digitally. You know, I
Yeah.
think they just made him up real good. I was like, ooh, Roose Bolton, teen heartthrob over here,
Yeah.
like. But you know what's funny? Like, so we get that, and then like the payoff with the prophet. You know, this is another character that I really like. The lady who can see the wheel, like anticipate a little bit of the wheel. It's not necessarily seeing the future. It's like she just sees the pattern a little bit ahead of everybody else.
Oh, Min. Come
Like I
on, Min.
really like the way that they put that,
Yeah.
and the way it kind of shows too. The way they kind of visualize first of all, like the five people's connection with each other, like their destinies are entwined, and also like seeing their future. You saw Nynaeve basically die before, you know, she just turned into a flaming corpse and fell forward.
You're going ahead
Oh,
to another episode here. You're skipping ahead already.
was that episode 8? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that was 8. Yeah,
Was,
there's two moments of Min's doing like the visions.
okay.
The first moment where Moraine's in the bar with them, right?
Right,
We're jumping ahead though. Like I don't know how we want to go through this. We're jumping all around because we haven't even.
We're trying to highlight what's really good about
I
this
know
episode.
but we didn't. It starts off with after the battle with the ways. We got to talk about the ways.
Sure.
I mean,
it's
I'm
really cool. Like
yeah.
what a way gate is. You know, a lot of different media do this kind of what is the world between worlds or the realm between realms. Hell, it was in the Mortal Kombat movie, the realm between realms, as well as. So here they are walking, and it was the Ogiers that created them, right?
Yes. Yep.
What is it? Glory to the Builders.
Yeah, glory to the Builders.
I love how they say that every time.
Thank you, Builders. They thank them all the time. They built everything.
Yeah, that's like what else besides the ways? Like, what was the ways like? I would love to see, you know, because he made it sound like it was this beautiful place before.
Well, it's tainted by Maiden, the thing that the darkness, the shadow that's in there.
Oh.
And that kind of, I think, you know, again, this is my loose understanding. I feel like that was tainted too because of the breaking of the world and all this stuff too. Like it's, it all kind of relates to that breaking of the world. Like everything is just sort of like gone to shit pretty much since that happened. You know, it's like,
yeah, crazy. But yeah, Loyal is leading them through, but Perrin's wolf eyes see up ahead that something's wrong with the waystone or the guidance.
Yeah, it was like it's pretty much a sign. It's just a signpost. It's like it tells you where to go.
I love how it's like screwed up a little bit, and she's like, "Are you able to read this?" And he's like, "Would you please be a little patient with me?" And Rand in the back is like, if he's telling us to be patient, we're dead.
I know.
I laughed out loud because we did watch that episode twice, and I laughed out loud each time because it just comes out of nowhere. Rand is Mr. Comedian in the back.
Well, I like how Loyal was trying to explain the ways to, like, I think Perrin or somebody asked a question, and like Rand's like, "Okay, we get it. Thanks, Loyal," but he has like this like friendly smirk. Like I personally appreciate that because I feel like the show hasn't really truly like kind of explain the relationship of Rand and Loyal that well. Like it's been very brief and hit or miss. Like they don't have a lot of time together.
No.
But in the book, they're like tight. Like they're like he really like they like each other like best friends like really fast. It's really neat.
Really?
Yeah. Like there's just something about like in that the library scene has a lot more. That they had in the earlier episodes when you meet them, like there was just more there and stuff, and they don't really explain why Loyal came. You asked that too, and I was hoping they would. They don't explain it at all. Like
I think Moraine just asked him a favor to guide them through the ways. I think that's it. I really think that's all.
Yeah,
she does say like, "I need a favor from you, Master Ogier," and that's.
Yeah,
we don't hear what the actual favor is, and I guess we're just made to assume like he's the guide.
Well, he just tells him. He just tells her where the closest way gate is. Pretty much, that's what he's doing.
Yeah. So but in the
book,
creature? Oh, go ahead.
I want to add something because I feel like this is. I mean, it's something. It doesn't really ruin anything. It's not like a huge reveal, but like, Loyal in the book, he is like on like this like pilgrimage that you do. Like he's considered like he's like a teenager in the Ogier world. Like, he's young.
Okay.
He's like
In his
super young,
age.
and like he's very like very fast and rebellious for Ogier. Like he's very, like that's kind of like his thing. Like, which is kind of funny in the book because he's extremely slow at doing
Exactly.
things.
Yeah, but that's fast for
Yeah.
years.
But like he is out, and he's mostly, I think from what I remember, I think he's avoiding getting married. But I think I don't know why I remember that. But like he's just out there trying. He doesn't want to get betrothed, so he's just making his journey last as long as possible. Because the idea is to like learn about the humans and stuff like that and explore. But then when he stumbles upon Rand, he realizes he's a Tavern, which we learn about in episode 8.
That's the name, yeah.
And he feels that, if I follow him around, I'm going to learn a ton of stuff. So that's his whole reasoning. It's just like he's like a people watcher of Rand, and he thinks he's going to get like a ton of information by just being around him. But
interesting.
That's
that's not really conveyed.
Yeah, it's not conveyed at all.
It's kind of a hard thing to convey too in a TV series,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine, but with all the other things you need to tell about too.
Yeah, and I think I read because of COVID, I was reading like that character was used sparingly because of all the makeup and all that. Because like that's things I've been learning about this show as I kind of think about it. Like it's like I was talking to some friends of mine that are into the books and into the show, and it's like how like the question is like why do they go to Tar-Valon when they're not supposed to? He's like, well, they did that because why make two sets? You're supposed to go to Camelin in the original in the source material, but you go to Tar-Valon so many times in the book. Why not just have them go there so you could just keep reusing that same place?
That's true. Yeah, build the set once, and if there's a second season, you're going to be coming back there. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense to do something like that.
It kind of made me think of like when you're adapting things, it's like you got to really think about that, like production wise. You can't just say, well, just because the book says they go to 20 different places, that we have to go to all 20 different places.
It's about economy. You can't force actors to act that many scenes that are just like setup scenes, and you can't force like there's only so much money, there's only so much capital to do these. That's the thing too. I mean, this is the first season. I know that Amazon put a good deal of money behind it, but it's still the first season. So hey, if this is at least received well enough that they feel like, okay, well we'll spring for a bigger budget, especially like an effects budget. In that opening sequence you were talking about with Rand's mother, I was watching the behind the scenes stuff on it, and it was all shot with this brand new type of camera that like independently moves and follows action, so you can have these really long single take shots that can focus, come in for close-ups and do wide shots like really quickly. From the actor's perspective, it's crazy because there's this like robo arm camera like moving in and out around you, and like kind of strafing you. But for the viewer, it looks amazing because you do get these amazing shots. So they let the guy like play with this camera, and it very much felt like, ooh, we had a little bit of money left over in the budget for the last couple episodes. Let's do that. Let's use the camera.
I hope so, because like whether it's been received critically or not, but like as far as at least it's getting views, right? It's like
I think it's getting
it's the number
Game
one
of Thrones at the beginning was very similar. Like it was like the people who had read the book and the people who were like, oh, I heard this is going to be pretty interesting. Not until like the second or third season is everybody watching, like with King Joffrey storyline and all that. So I think Wheel of Time might, hopefully pick up more and more traction.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
More people have Amazon too than HBO. That's the thing. So, well, at least that, huh?
I don't know what else people are watching on Amazon Prime, really.
Honestly, this is the first year I really got into it. I mean, we had Invincible earlier this year, so it's like
that was it. Like that was the only reason.
That's two more than I've ever watched. So I'm just saying it's.
That's true. That's true.
But anyways, so we got to the Ways. I actually like the depiction of the Ways. I loved Madden Shin's depiction.
Oh yes, is it a creature? Is it a?
It's an entity, I guess.
It's an entity?
Yeah, okay. It's like an entity. Okay. I don't remember the exact like lore behind it, to be quite honest. But it's scary. That's all I remember from the book. It's like, don't go near it. Like, it's really bad.
I think it was really cool, and
that was a really cool scene. I like that scene with Moraine trying to open the gate, and they're all getting their thoughts. Like, I mean, I know we're jumping around, but like that really stuck out. Like that whole scene of like in the ways, Moraine doing something really epically awesome with channeling, everyone else freaking out, and
Nynaeve, exploding the world again.
Yeah, like those moments, like, they don't happen very often when you read the books, but those are the moments that make you really love Wheel of Time, because they do happen. Like, the show is doing them more often, but like, though, when they happen in the books, you're just like, oh my god, because it's like Lord of the Rings, where you have like this epic battle that like lasts like 2 pages, right? Where
really cool to read, and
Wheel of Time does that a lot. It's like, oh, we're gonna just spend like 5 hours reading about them walking around a lake, and how metaphorically this lake's ripples mean the meaning of time, and it's wonderful and pretty and awesome, and everyone hates each other and loves each other all at the same time. And oh wait, Ram's doing this now. It's like,
get me to the cool scene. Yeah, so they do make it through, and I love Moraine as like kind of the leader of she is the leader of this group. When they get through, she's like, well done, all, like, good job. Like, I love her little bit of encouragement, and she's like, and she sees everyone looks depressed, and she's like, don't listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so I
like you hear all the voices, right? You hear all the voices of the different things. Like, you learn things too. It's like,
yes, Perrin's worst fear, his secret affection for Egwene. It could be. It's like that kind of thing, though. It's not necessarily true. It's just like your worst fear. Like, this is what you think of yourself, in your worst moments. But I like how Rand gets 2, basically. Like, his first one is, Egwene will never love you the way you love her.
Mm-hmm.
But then later on, we get a flashback to what his was really focused on. Basically, him saying, like, you've known it all your life.
Yep. Yep. So,
you're the dragon.
So I know this is where you get you were telling me this before the show. Like, this where they ended up is like, you love this place.
Well, I think it's a really cool way to get there too. Like, they're trying to get to the Eye of the World directly, right? Like, it would have taken.
Yeah, there's a gate that's supposed to be closer, but they had to make a decision.
So they had to avert because of the Trolloc and so they get to, what is it? The Fortress of Fal Daren?
Yeah, Fal Daren. I don't know how you say it. Yeah, but it's
so cool. Such a cool, like, we are the last defense against the Blight. Like, I'd always wanted to see the Blight. You know this. Like, ever since I read the book. Or
do you just like it? Did you just like it because you saw it on a map, or you just like the name of it?
Because our mutual friend who got you into Wheel of Time, I asked him a ton of questions about it before I even picked it up to read it. So I looked over the map and I was like, you really like this? I was like questioning and asking him about it. And I'm like, what is this? And what's this? And I'm like, what's the Blight? He was like, the Blight. The Blight's cool. It's all coming from the Dark One's prison. And it's just this, basically this poisonous forest that's spreading across the land. And Trollocs are in there sometimes. So, they're trying to sneak through, and there's a city that's like protecting it, or protecting the realm from it. It's just like the last defense against the Blight. And just from that, I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. Because it's kind of Helm's Deep-ish. I don't know how to put it. It's like the last defense.
Yeah, it's like the wall in Game of
Gilead, if you will. It's like the last defense between.
But it's like the wall in Game of Thrones, right? From the north.
Sure.
Not as grand, I guess, but it's still pretty cool.
It's what divides like the evil one from the. I think of it more like it's definitely Lord of the Ringsy, like Mordor, like the gate, the Moradon. Like beyond that, it's terrible. But the Blight, I thought, in seeing it at the very end of this episode too, like actually seeing it was even better than what I imagined. I really had no conception of what it might look like. Maybe like a purple forest, like glowing.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
hard to,
it does seem
know.
like it is more of a forest in the book. Like, it's not like just a bunch of like brambly branches, but like again, like the more I've been looking into the show, like now that I from this point of view, it's like yeah, like that makes more sense to do because like you're not going to make this crazy looking forest because that is like described the way it is. Like that works for the show. It still looks cool.
I
And
think
I
it's
like it.
better.
Yeah.
If you ask me, not actually a forest, because a forest you associate with like living things, but this thing looks like a cancer. You know, it looks like
Mm-hmm.
something evil spreading, like the kind of like the downward, these, downward growing, not trees, but like limbs and roots. It looks like some
You
weird growth.
you know what it makes me think. You know what it makes me think of? It makes me think of those episodes in Donkey Kong where you.
I didn't want to say it. It did remind me of.
Oh
Bramble
man!
Scramble and Squawk's Shaft.
But
So
yeah, I
thought, yeah.
so
Yes. So they're trying to get there, but instead they get to fall Dara.
yeah.
Which
So
is,
I don't have to go over everything, but like that is like really the epic moment where they see the blight and stuff at the end. That is really cool. But there are really some really cool like moments that happen. Like I honestly thought like these are one of the better acted episodes. Like I really like the tension between Neve and Lan in this episode. Like there's a scene like obviously they like each other. I know you've been standing them, simping them, shipping them. I don't know what the phrase is.
yes, shipping them, putting them in a box and shipping them. But they're to see like between these two episodes it come to fruition.
Yeah.
Good.
But there's a moment like in like this episode 7 where they're like in the hallway and there's like awkward silence for like 2 minutes. Like they're just like staring at each other. No one's saying anything. No one's gonna do that right there is the representation of the first 5 books of their relationship. Is like it's just
that long, huh?
Yeah.
That long?
It's like
Oof.
it's like, oh, we love each other, but we won't say anything. We can't confess our love to each other. Like that's the thing with like relationships in real time, is like he was so slow at it, and like it was just like, come on, just.
He was still learning himself, Justin Robert Jordan. You know, you had to give him time to figure it out. But there's, I do love hearing about Lan's past.
Yeah, that was good.
And also meeting this like surrogate family.
Yeah.
They really are his family, and like how they welcome him and how much he loves to see them, and how like she gets to see him for who he really is, not just the warder. She gets to see Lan the man.
She stalks him around the city. Like
what the heck? Like, what is she doing? Like at one point, I turned to Kristen. I'm like, what is she doing? Just walking around following people? Like,
well, all her friends got mad at each other, so she didn't know what to do. I guess, and she
messed it up. Is what she did.
She messed it up.
Oh my gosh! Both times we watched, I look at Kristen. I'm like, that was wholly unnecessary. Like, you could have done this a dozen ways to diffuse the tension, not call into question, people's deepest loyalties all in one shot. So 90 basically, like they're arguing, and she goes, "Hey, I know you're in love with her, and she's in love with him, and you're in love with her, and you're trying to keep it a secret. So stop it." And everyone looks at her like, "What the fuck? Why did you do that?" And they all like storm away. And she's like, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Like, what were you intending? Like, what was the intent behind that?
Yeah.
It seems like for somebody who's so careful about things, she makes a lot of these stupid mistakes.
Well, I kind of remember her getting her foot caught in her mouth a few times in the book. Like, it is kind of like the nature. Like, she's sometimes almost too blunt about things. Because she does have the sense that she thinks that because like she's in a sense older than the rest of them. They don't really showcase that too much in this show. I feel like they put her in the same plane almost with the rest of them.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, she's somewhat an elder, but she looks like she's the same age as them.
Yeah, and it is kind of like that in the book too, where it's like she is the elder to them, but it's like it's like you being 12. it's like you being 12 and then you have like a person that's in high school that's telling you to do something. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, oh wow, they're way older than me. Like it's
Like
like
5 years older than me.
yeah, like it really isn't that. But when they're 20 something that they're putting them at this, but when she's still in her 20s, it's not as drastic looking, right? Like it's a little like where I think in the book she's like 19 and they're like 15. You know, it's like that's a bigger sort of difference. I
Kind
feel
of a
like.
bigger deal, yeah. A little bit.
Um,
Especially at this time when their age expectancy is like what, 60? So their life expectancy. So
I don't know how old they
um,
live in this freaking show. The wheel will tell us.
before we, I mean, because we still have a lot of ground to cover with episode 8, and there's some things here that we can kind of cover when we talk about that. Like we can talk a little bit more in depth about Faldara's like hierarchy. The prince, is it? Is
Yeah, I
that
think
his?
so.
I think he's a
See,
prince, and then
like
his
Fardella got a really good representation because again, like they're
really
not they're they're
cool
they're,
culture.
they're not like real. I mean, they're detailed, but I don't remember them at all like this. I don't remember this being my vision of it. I go ahead.
They might have had like a baseline for what that place or these people are like, and I feel like the show kind of fleshed it out even more. Even I was like, this seems more like a somebody developed this a little bit further. Like there's more details here than probably in the
Well,
book,
and that's
like
the thing.
about the sister and the brother's relationship, and then they even mention their father in the next one, and like the importance of being the last defense, against the blight. Like what they're doing is such important work. Like Faldara will never need, help. It will always. The way he like argues basically with Moraine before she even opens her mouth and is like, "I know why you're here. You think that we need help, well, we don't need help,"
Yeah.
and he gets so pissed off. But
Well, see, the thing, like, this doesn't happen in the book, so that's why it throws me all off.
they got a lot to. I think they're trying to convey a lot about that place.
Yeah, like, and I like, actually, I like this better because, like when we get to 8, it's like the blight stuff. Like, I think even Robert Jordan has come out and said, like, that was the first book. Like, he's like, I wrote that ending about Eye of the World, like, really bad. I wish I could have changed it. Like,
Really,
he didn't like his ending. I think my friend was mentioning to me, I don't know where this was referenced or where this is, like, I can't quote this quote, I can't, like, reference it. But,
sure.
like, the end of Eye of the World, because we're kind of at that point of reading the book, like, because when they use the ways, they don't go to Faldara, they just go straight to the Eye of the World. And all of them do. There's
Oh,
no, like, separation. They just all go there. But
okay.
when they get there, something happens where none of the other people can really do anything. So, like, it's not bad that what they ended up doing happened, and it's a way for them to kind of showcase this place called Faldara, which they do go to in the second book after the events of the Blight. So, like,
Okay.
it's like you're setting up this stage where the battle does happen. Like, the thing that's happening in Faldara in episode 8, it does happen in episode 1, but it's not the focal point. There's no one there that's of any importance. It's happening while the Blight's happening. But it's so chaotic and confusing and like just really weirdly written that I've read that thing twice because I've read the book two times and I'm still confused by the way it's written.
Well, so then you could say that the story developers here, the people who are working on this, they had to make a choice. They're like, we have to have a focal point for this battle. We
Hmm.
need it here because these characters need to do something while Rand goes with Moraine to the Eye of the World.
Exactly.
Like, we can't just put them someplace or introduce another place. Like, we might as well. I think it was a good idea if bringing this in because honestly, it's more lore and more
Yeah.
about this world, and in another culture, another city. Like that's a different kind of city, like a fortress city,
Hmm.
not like Tarvalon, which is very much like a cosmopolitan, high society kind of city, and then this city is like very much like it's just dedicated to the defense of that pass. You
Hmm.
know keeping the evil at bay. So it's like the last outpost. It's really cool. I'm glad that they did. They like people must like that city and that storyline or that idea to want to use it as like the set piece for the finale. You know,
It,
you
it,
need something
yeah, it makes
to kind of
sense.
battle. So borrowing from one book, they did this in the Lord of the Rings movies as well. They moved battles around a little bit. Action
They've been doing this
sequences.
with the whole show. Like, I mean, like they've
Yeah,
been pulling a lot of stuff because again, like the later
it's just
books have a lot of the cooler things that like really kind of make you think of Wheel of Time. Like, it's nothing against book one. Out of
yeah,
the
just
World was
because
still
people like a
interesting.
book though doesn't mean that it's not poorly written in spots. Like every book has flaws.
Yeah,
So, this like, and if Robert Jordan himself like even admitted like, yeah, I wish I could have rewritten that ending, then that's saying something. You know,
he
it's
does fix it. Like he almost sends like whether it was part of his original plan or not. Like he does something later in the books to kind of like change sort of the
somewhere.
outcome. Yeah, like and I yeah, we'll get to that. Like I'm sure you have
Okay.
questions, but yeah, I don't really have anything
All
else
right.
to say except for one more thing about this episode before we can unless you have anything else.
No, no, no. I was gonna say I think we've covered episode 7 pretty well here. But what do you got?
Pat and Fane starts to have a little more importance in this episode,
Ah,
right?
well, we see him. We see him. Oh my gosh, this is the creepiest scene in the ways. Never mind the floating creature who tells you your worst fears. Like just the moment where Perrin looks down the hallway and he can see him, like just this little figure, all the way down at the end of the hallway. This dark figure. It's like for a second, but ooh, very creepy. Very
Yeah.
creepy.
But he comes out
Yeah.
of the way gate in this episode.
Yes, he does.
And then we didn't really touch on this though, but like you got like the whole like argument and love triangles and them debating whether they can go or not. But then of course you have the big reveal with Rand, right? Like he finally has the revelation that
Indeed.
he's been channeling this whole time. That no, I actually like that. Like they didn't showcase his channeling, but like he knocked on a door with brute strength. Like you just that's all you thought it was.
Yep.
But they
Thought he
show
was
him,
like some kind of super strength was going to come out of him, not being a channeler.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So like I thought that was a really good way to reveal that he is the one. Um, because again, like you don't really get that actual reveal until they all go to the Blight in the book. And I'm not trying to compare the two. I'm just saying, like, I thought that was a good reveal for the show. Like, let's show all the things he's done over the course of the season that references that. And they gave us the crazy Tam talk when he was sick in the forest, like him like
yes,
ramblings and all that stuff. I'm like, I really was hoping they gave that because I was hoping for a flashback because that's like really a big. He questions a lot as he's walking around, but they decided just not to let the viewer hear Rand's thoughts, which I really kind of thought that was a good way, a good play, because it kind of like it keeps you guessing a little bit more who the dragon is. Where I feel like if you hear that, you know,
they've been really pushing this. Like you don't know who it is. It could be any one of them, and even like it could be Matt. Like we don't know. But yeah, like it's weird watching this, knowing already who the Dragon Reborn is, even before the series. Before we started watching the series. Um, but like from Kristen's perspective, I kind of like didn't mention anything about it. I tried not to, and I think she broke down and just asked me like, "Who is it of these five?" I think it's him, right? Like that's who they're kind of implying. But they could always do a curveball. But I'm like, no, your instincts are right. It's definitely Rand, and getting to finally hear Tam like describe picking Rand up in the snow and like how hot he was to the touch, right? He was like
yeah, yeah.
a really hot baby.
I
Like,
mean,
okay,
he was in the cold, so of
dragons,
course he was pretty hot. I guess. I mean, like I don't know, like
dragons are hot, I guess.
yeah.
Yes, all the time. But
uh,
yeah,
I thought that was a good reveal, and then him leaving, of course, and all that lovely stuff. And but I just the one thing I want to kind of touch on, we can too, is like so like this is the whole like these last two episodes. Matt, this is when the actor left, so I started reading into this more. That's why he didn't come in the ways. So they had reworked all these scenes, not including Matt.
uh,
So
but
like
what I mean, if they're gonna recast him, I guess they couldn't just bring him in there. I don't know.
no, it was too late in the development. But like but we can talk about more. But like I start seeing what they were thinking of doing. But it's just weird. Like he was supposed to be in a lot of these scenes, and I think that's why they maybe that's why they brought the love triangle thing in. I don't know. Like, maybe that wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe there was more to kind of have. Maybe there was a different discussion in that moment because Matt would have been there. Because, like, maybe Matt would have said that. That would have made sense, right? Matt saying that instead of
naive.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, that I can see playing
like in like a droll, like, you know, like, come on, you know, you're all in love with each other, you know, like one of those.
Yeah, because he still has the dark, and he
sense.
has like the darkness in him too, right? Like he's like kind of like saying things that he doesn't really normally he wouldn't do, right? Like he still has this kind of weird vibe to him. So like I could see that kind of work, like that happening. But yeah, but it is what it is. You can't change it. I start noticing like, oh man, Matt should have been there. That's
so weird that the actor left. I don't know. Did you find out by any chance why he left, or is
it's just all guessing. No one knows if it's there's no like it can't have been something bad. Like he didn't like do anything wrong because obviously those usually come out. Honestly, the biggest guess is that it's like health related, and because it's not like he didn't say I have cancer or I have like a mental like an actual physical thing. They think it's like a mental thing. That's the only thing that people can seem to. And this is just me just asking some people that like they looked into it.
So, okay.
Yeah,
so nobody knows.
No one knows.
Okay.
No one knows. It's just guesses. It's all guesses.
Yep. I would have said scheduling conflicts, but you never know. All right. Well, Justin, let's take a quick break. This is a pretty good discussion of a really fun, really interesting episode.
Loved it. Good episode.
And then we can talk, when we come back, we'll talk about the finale, The Eye of the World. And we're back. All right, Justin, here we are at the last episode of the first season of Wheel of Time. Did you ever think, now just before we even get started, did you ever think this would be turned into a TV show?
I would hope so. I mean,
did you imagine it was going to happen though, like anytime soon, or were you just like not really expecting something like this to happen?
After Game of Thrones, I had more faith. The only concern I had, I guess, was just the rights battle that the family had and stuff, and like I know with everything that happened with that pilot, you know, like that was randomly released. I mean, they've made actually video games for Wheel of Time, so it's like it wasn't like they were. I've never played them, but they do exist.
Well, like sold the company. He sold like all the rights to some weird like Red Hawk like LLC company. Like,
yeah. I mean, I am happy that it existed. I mean, there's been a lot of fantasy things that became shows. You know. And I thought this one would eventually happen. Yes, I had this feeling it would eventually happen. Whether I think for one point I was like, it probably would be a movie. Like that's the only answer I would give because I don't know. They probably would have just like boiled it down to like some like 4-movie thing. But like with Harry Potter trilogies and like or the franchise and stuff like that, and you know Lord of the Rings becoming so popular and making all the Hobbit films, I'm like, okay, well maybe they'll make a bunch of movies off of this thing. Maybe that would happen. But then with Game of Thrones, when Game of Thrones came out and you could do a fantasy show that was extremely popular, I'm like, it's going to be a show. It has to be a show. Like, so yes.
TV is where it's at again, man. Movie franchises. I feel like Marvel's like the last real movie franchise. Like we're not really going to be getting too many of those because just I don't know if COVID plays into it, but just people aren't going to the movies as much. So
except for Spider-Man.
Yeah, but you know that's Marvel and it's huge, and it's also teasing some amazing things happening in it. It's not the same as embarking on a new fantasy journey like this. Like trying to sell a Wheel of Time movie seems really hard, but I think it's easier to sell like a season of television. Like let's give it a shot. You know, let's really try to flesh this out and develop this work. But all right, let's go where we left off. I mean, Rand and Moraine. You know, Rand in the previous episode comes to Moraine's room in like the middle of the night. It's like, it's me. I'm totally the dragon, and she's like, okay, let's go. and they leave them behind. She masks her bond from Lan, so Lan can't feel her. I love that scene when he tells Nynaeve too. He's like, she masked her bond. She's leaving, you know, and they're like, Rand, like, and immediately they understand what's going on. So we open with them traveling through the Blight, and the Blight is just as disgusting and awful as I thought it would be.
I'm glad that you weren't disappointed with your
the Blight lived up to its expectations. I was hoping for more like Trollocs to be running through it at random.
Yeah,
it seemed kind of boring for the most part, but okay.
It's a really big mazy Blight. You know, it's going to take a lot. It's like a needle in a haystack kind of thing. You know, it's like, but I'm glad that your 20-year expectation of the Blight was not.
That's where my, you know, that's where the good things I have to say about this episode end, right there.
Oh boy! Yeah. But actually, we did not start with him in the Blight, though. That's the thing. There's a big thing we need to talk about here.
What's that?
We start off with a very cold open again with meeting Lewis Theron, the original Dragon Reborn.
Oh man! Wow. So yeah, 3,000 years ago. That's one way to start an episode. So 3,000 years ago, apparently it was the future. Because this world, as we saw, you know, like, I love their futuristic dress too. They look very cool. And there are, you know, male and female Aes Sedai, like, they're just people who can be Aes Sedai. And also you look outside and there's flying cars. It's Back to the Future.
Yep,
baby, we've gone to the future.
See, I have to say, I'm gonna make a confession here, because you had asked me this briefly when we first started. Like, you thought you saw like skyscrapers in the first episode, right?
Yeah.
And I had completely forgotten about this depiction of the Legends era. Like, this is like the and like I always knew that it was like a more advanced civilization, but I had forgotten that they had referenced, and this is like a reference to like a later vision that somebody had. Well, Rand has, so it doesn't really matter, I don't think. Of this era. And they mention flying cars. Like, they don't really go into, like, they don't say, like, oh, this is, like, a science fiction thing. Like, they just reference that it was very advanced and there was very, like, different technologies and stuff. Like, it's weird because it looks futuristic, but not, like, exactly futuristic. It's not like you're in space. You know, it's not like you're in sci-fi. But, like...
Yeah, it's like futuristic to a point. Yeah, like, it's still magic-based futurism, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I really appreciated that. I was like, oh, wow, this is really, really cool. Like, I really like that scene to start off, to be honest.
I thought that was really interesting. And we're basically getting this scene where we're watching the, the breaking of the world, right? Like, what happened, like, what precipitated the breaking of the world.
Yep.
This guy and 199 other male, I'm assuming, Aes Sedai, are... going to confront the Dark One, and she's like, don't do it. Like, you know, you think it's going to work, but, you know, don't expose him to the source. Don't let the Dark One be exposed to the source. And I guess by doing so, this is how, you know, it corrupts, you know, whatever events happen. The world is broken, first of all, and the source is corrupted for males to use. The males can't use it without going crazy.
Yep.
So
I like
that's where we are.
I like that scene because they all they do is they speak in the ancient tongue the whole time. So it's all completely translated in a different language.
Yep.
Like it's a good amount of it too. Like you're not like, it's not like a brief scene. Like, you have to sit there and just watch subtitles for like 3 to 5 minutes, which, I mean, for me that's not a big deal, but like I usually in shows like this you don't see that for a very long period of time. You know, like, I just thought that was really interesting.
I mean, it's depicting a time 3,000 years ago. They don't talk the same.
Yep.
They don't talk the same.
No, Lewis Theron, seeing him finally, like, not at all what I depicted him as. Nothing at all.
He's the original dragon, the first dragon.
He's there is many dragons.
Okay,
he's the only.
Yeah.
He's the
But he's the dragon of that time.
Yes, there's many. Like, it's like but I think he's the previous dragon to Rand. Like that's the way I've always looked at it. But there have been other
the last
dragons.
one broke the world. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So like,
gotcha.
There's kind of like some contention there because they don't ever reference any other dragons. I don't feel like that's like a big spoiler, but they do hint at there are other dragons. They just don't. He's like the only one you really kind of know about.
Yeah. Very interesting. It makes me feel like the world is. I mean, it obviously is old, but I mean, it could be even like tremendously older than it appears. You know.
Mm-hmm.
And especially like from the Two Rivers perspective, it's just like there are this little backwater sheepfold town, and you know, on the same grounds, thousands of years ago, you know, were advanced civilizations.
Playing people playing video games and everything. You know, it's like it's great.
It's Horizon Zero Dawn. Here we are.
We've made it full circle.
Yep. So this episode, there's lots of things going on. So Moraine and Rand, their own strand of this story is they're getting to the Eye of the World, which I gotta be completely honest with you, Justin, was kind of a disappointment in terms of set design. It was just a pit with a yin yang sign at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And if this is the place where the Dark One is sealed, right? This is his prison. Is that correct? Is that what the Eye of the World is?
Yeah, that was how it was supposed to be.
Okay.
But
will somebody please tell me what the Eye of the World is? Like, that's all. And then Moraine's like, no, sorry, I can't tell you. Dark Friends deleted all the records. And the first thing I thought of, first of all, how does that even happen to the Aes Sedai? Second of all, it made me think of Obi-Wan Kenobi looking for Camino. And the librarian, Jocasta, there, like, well, if it's not in the record, then it doesn't exist. It's like, well, it does. So what the hell is it? And so what the hell is this?
Okay,
Won't someone please tell me what the Eye of the World is?
Do you want the book version?
Okay, what happened? Tell me. Sure. What is it?
The book version, the Eye of the World, it's a pool of like pure like liquid Sedine. So like it's actually pure source. So it's actually like something that you can like jump into. It's it's like a pool. It's not like some sort of and like it's like I can't remember. This is the thing. It is again like it. I defend the people that made the show because again like the ending descriptions are kind of confusing. Exactly what the Eye of the World is, but it's described as in a sense a pool of like pure Sedine, which is like the source of the male source of the power that was corrupted, and below it and beneath it and the bottom of it is like a seal to the Dark One's prison. It's not. I think I believe
it's like the manhole cover to his prison.
I believe there is more than one seal, so it's like that is not the only one. So like that's kind of my understanding of it, and I that's what I've always thought it was. And I think what will be explained to in the next season because they do hint at something. We can jump around this episode, no problem. Because at the end, like the seal breaks, right? And she sees.
So that's the Heartstone, right? And Lan is like, I thought it was unbreakable, even by channeling. Like I didn't think you could break it.
Yeah, it's called Colin like Colander. I don't know, like Colandir. It's a strainer.
Wheeldan is how it's spelled.
Wait, what?
Cuiillandan, whatever.
Yeah, so like that. I think that's a reference to. I mean, I see where they're going with it. It's not quite exactly what happens in the book, but I can see how they're going to connect the dots. And I don't want to give away too much, but it makes sense to me, that reference.
To you, but to the rest of us, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is this stuff?
It'll be explained. It'll be explained.
I mean, sure, but it's a season of television, and this is their last episode, and really, like, one of the last scenes. And they're not doing a great job of conveying information. So, just as a critique of an episode of television, I gotta just say.
You had lots of questions for
Wasn't
me in this
expecting
episode. Are you asking them already? Like, what questions did you have?
Well, yeah, like one of them, what the fuck? That's one of the questions.
Okay.
Second of all, so we get our the first day. I remember you mentioning that there are at the very, when we were talking on this show, as well as just talking off mic, about how you can you can channel the source into objects, right?
Tangriel. That's what they call them.
So we got that. What I guess the 200 dude Sedais poured their force into. Jesus, I'm like butchering this, but you know what I mean. They poured their life force. What, I don't know, what is it? Their powers into that.
It's just like you would embed certain elements or power to objects. You enhance them. You kind of like, it's like making a magic sword, sort of like thing like that.
Yeah. Okay, like that part I get, but I don't know what they were calling it. Like, is it their power? Is it the source itself that they're channeling into it? But whatever.
They channel. They channel in a sense, like the holding the tangle or an artifact. And it depends. And there's people. It's like an ancient art you learn that like no one really knows how to make anymore. Until you meet a different character later in the book, but like pretty much you have to find them. Like they're like artifacts that are like ancient, right? And these artifacts can do specific things. They're like, this thing can do this thing, and this thing can do that thing, or this thing can be just like a power boost. Like that's kind of like what a Tangrel really is.
So Rand is going to hold one, the object of this, and Moiraine finally like lays out the plan. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to take this thing that's like a little statue of the Buddha, and you're going to hold it, and you're going to channel into it, and zap the Dark One with it. You're going to hit him with all you got. Like, okay. All right. And I like Rand. He's like, so how does that work exactly? He's like, can you give me some details? Which is exactly what I think anybody would ask. Like, okay, well, could you just be a little bit more specific? Where should I be standing? How should I put my hands? Like, should I be pointing at him? But all that is meaningless because Rand goes into like a trance and basically talks to the Dark One. While the Dark One in the real world is talking to Moiraine. Moiraine is holding a knife to Rand's throat just in case he goes bad.
You're jumping around because they have a dream before this. Because he has like the dream, in the forest, and then Moiraine dies like in the dream. It's like very.
I was gonna let that one go because it was such a wacky scene. I didn't want to bring it up. But all right, let's talk about it. Rand shoots the Dark One in the eye with an arrow.
That was a cool visual, though. Like him, like
there you go.
I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool thing.
I was like, here's the dude now. Okay. I'm like, first of all, I was like, damn, the Dark One is dressed nicely. When you saw his face and like glowing eyes, but he's wearing like a nicely cut suit. I'm like, damn, like Dark One knows how to dress. I'm like, it's the finale. He's like dressing for the Oscars over here. So he does that so that you can just see his face before he's corrupted. I'm assuming. It's kind of like the Satan devil type of thing.
I'm going to just say
this is what he looks like to appeal to humans.
I'm going to say something. It's so hard to have a conversation about this with you because I know so much more and I don't want to give it away.
You see, now I'm giving you the average person who doesn't know this series, just watching the television and analyzing what I'm seeing. It's not your job or the job of book readers to be like, I feel like, again, this is an episode for book readers and not for the average viewer. Because there's all these things that are planted here, like down the line, I'll get them. But if I'm the person that's renewing a season of television, I'll be like, what are the stakes? What happened? Why did this like fall apart at the end?
So like what I'll also say is what you're feeling, like what your questions are, what you're
same as everyone who read the book.
At the end of Episode of the World, it's like you're just like, what the fuck is this? You're just like, okay, like, is this the end? There's
Why
gonna
is this the end?
like
Why is this the
there's
end?
another one. Why do I have to? Why are there 10 books out? Like, what else do I have to do?
God
Like,
damn it!
like you
I
just
just got through all of this
you're like,
for
oh,
nothing.
what happens? Like so much, like in that last scene, like in the ending, you're just like, oh my god, there's like so much going on here. It's like in the last 3 chapters, and it's like, what? Why is there another book I have to read? Like you just kind of think like, well, that's it, right? No. And it
Because
makes
Rand does it. I mean, he does. He does exactly what Moraine says. He denies the darkness and he embraces the light and he zaps the Dark One. He places his feet just right and holds on to the statue, zaps him, and the Dark One disappears.
yeah,
And that's it.
yeah,
And it's like so anticlimactic. It's like, okay,
yep.
so he's gone. Great. Why don't we celebrate? But in the process, he does sever Moraine's connection to the source, right?
Like shields it. He shields it. It's not the same as Logain. It's more she can't.
Oh, okay.
She can't sense it or grab it. That's a change that doesn't happen in the book. So,
but they kind of hinted at it, and what's going to happen? Like she'll break out of it, no problem. Eventually, it'll be like when her life depends on it, because that's what she was saying.
yeah.
Oh, and that's like, actually, I have some book knowledge to bring to you from New Spring, that prequel book. Because it's all about Moraine, Moraine when she becomes an Aes Sedai. And actually, Kristen's reading it. Been telling me a lot about what's going on in there and how she herself, Moiraine, was not able to like sustain her connection, and it was like the training that she went through that like put her kind of like in danger to like force her to channel. Like she drew upon the source. She wasn't overthinking it anymore. She found like a way to like get past her writer's block, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I'm sure like something will be set up next season where they do a flashback or something and show her past and then show her breaking through it and reconnecting with the source. It's just like a little emotional thread for her and Lan now for the beginning of the next season. And because where do you leave Moraine at the end of this book? In a very similar, just like, yep, it's done. We don't know if it worked or not. I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, it's like it's weird for me. Like we'll talk about the end of the show episode. I mean, like I liked it. I had mixed feelings on this episode. Like after having such an amazing episode 7, I was kind of a little hyped for this one. I thought it would be, but I was really still curious, knowing like how the Outer World is supposed to happen. I'm like, okay, I can see how things should pan out, but like I agree with you as far as the whole thing with like it just ending really abruptly and like him using the Tangirl and just destroying the Dark Run. But like they do the whole dream thing, which I thought was a really cool thing that they do with he like has the other world he goes into, and Egwene has a baby and all those things. Like, I thought that was actually well done as far as like confusing Rand and like tempting him, because that's like that's what this whole scene is supposed to be about, is tempting him to join the Dark One, right? Like to bring the dragon to their side.
Yep.
And it is actually a cool shot when they do that. Like they're kind of like flipping around in a circle, like I think showing the dream world and Rand when he does the actual like explosion of power that disintegrates the Dark One. But one thing I want to reference to you is in that scene, they do give a little bit of a hint to the viewer. And I thought about this a little later. I've watched that scene a couple times. Is the Dark One has like a smile or a smirk on his face when that happens. Yeah. So like, and obviously they say that this isn't over. There's many battles to come. Like there's something left undone for this prophecy that is given.
Yeah, and they keep alluding. They come right out and say it like, "Oh, this isn't the last battle; it's the first battle."
Yeah.
It's like, well,
so
what does that mean?
I feel like
the last battle.
I feel like you have. I'm trying to remember because it's kind of a blur, but like there is like an actual written prophecy, and like there's prophecies amongst a variety of different ethnicities and nations about what is supposed to happen with the dragon. And like these prophecies are actually relatively sort of like, they're vague and cryptic, and you can be kind of like taken the wrong way or worded weirdly, where it's like this, it actually still happens, but everyone took it this way, kind of a thing.
Misinterpreted.
But that's never really given to the viewer, and that's the one thing about this episode that I wish that, I guess, if you want to sum up the whole series, like my thoughts on this whole episode was like, I liked some moments of it. I didn't mind the way that the Dark One was presented in that whole battle. I liked the references to the futuristic city. They gave Perrin things to do. They gave Neonave things to do, which I liked because they don't do anything in the book. I feel like they didn't. You talk about like the great budget of the fight scene, episode 7. The battle at Faldara was interesting, but I feel like it was really weirdly done. It looked very, I don't know. It just didn't. It seemed off. Like there's just something not quite right about it.
Yeah, I agree. Faldara is really set up to be this really cool battle sequence too, right? It feels like Helm's Deep. Like we're gonna get this like big defense, this last defense. We'll go out, we'll die trying to defend the realm. So first of all, the prince dies within seconds of his defense, which sucked. They could have given him like literally 30 seconds more. It would have been better, I think, overall. And secondly, the Trollocs, overwhelm them and, are coming through. That's fine. But when they're like charging across to get to the actual city, it's dark, it's muddied. You don't really see what's going on. And that's a sign to me like they don't have really the effects budget to flesh that out. So what do? You put it in the dark. You can't show it all, or you don't have the money to show it all, or the time to generate, to make it as detailed and as neat as it could be. You put it in the dark. You make it like the suggestion of something, a lot of Troggs. I couldn't make out one or two at a time, but maybe really there might be 3 or 4 on the screen. But yeah, and then as a friend of mine describes this, he's not a big fan of CG in any movie. He's just like, a big army of gobbledygooks just running across, like, sure. And then they get zapped, and then they're gone. Though I did like from the other perspective, I did like what happens when you channel too hard and you burn up. I like the 2 lesser ladies, those poor ladies. They're like, we can do it too. And then they're standing next to the greatest channeler of their time, and the Gwen, and this other lady who can, the sister, the princess. And they're like, we can help too, and they immediately, go up like a match, just like burn up.
It's such a weird, disturbing scene. Like, I mean, it's like weird, but like I get weird. Like it is kind of weird, that shot too. It's like you just got them standing in the middle of this like set with a bunch of rocks. It's like it's so empty, and so like I don't know. It could have been really, really cool if they had like I don't know if I'm just like asking for movie quality shots, because sometimes the show sort of almost gets there. So you're hoping it happens all the time. But if you're going to do these epic moments where you have 3 ladies like holding hands and like weaving together and destroying an army of freaking Trollocs, make it look freaking cool. You know what I mean? I have a... Go ahead. But like it like there's moments where it kind of looks cool, but all you're seeing is just like lightning bolts and things like that. You don't even see like, and then they're just killing like maybe 3 Trollocs at a time. It's like it doesn't show them just like. It would have been cooler if you wanted to like actually just do a shot of like it's like seeing a gigantic army of Trollocs and they just like do one gigantic blast and it burns everyone up. Sure, instead of them doing it for like 20 minutes, I'm over exaggerating, but like I feel like they could have handled that scene a little more epically than it was supposed to be to represent that.
You don't really need to do much to make it land a little better. Like it's really about like building tension, them trying to channel, make it hard, make it difficult. Like these people aren't working together, and so like the Trollocs are getting closer. Like I could write, like we could sit here and flesh out what would be a better sequence using the same set pieces that they have and the same actors and the same scenario. Like we could make that. I feel like we could change the stakes a little bit just to make it.
And I'll just give an example. Like we had an example of this shot. Like it's the first episode where Moiraine's fighting an army of Trollocs, right? And she's like throwing things at them and all these things. You have protectors that are stopping them from getting hurt. Just have a few people like guards around them, just like killing the leftovers as in a body of Trollocs like kind of build up as they're killing the rest of the army. That would have been a little more engaging than just them just standing in a field or middle of nowhere.
And you know what? Because it's just them standing in a field, I never felt like they were even in the same place. It didn't work. The scene didn't work because it was just like, here is a CGI video, and now we're just going to show you stock footage of these, 4 people, waiting over here. There's some rocks, some rubble. We match the colors so you know that they're in the same spot, but it doesn't. It doesn't feel like they're in the same spot.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the thought behind it. Like the execution wasn't there. Like I feel like it makes sense. It was kind of weird. Just like we need some channelers, and like they just like kind of walk into the scene just off the side of the screen. Like I don't even know where they came from. It's just like they're just like, oh hey, hey guys,
the door. Like show up on this desert. Like I get it, Fortress City, but every fortress has a door. Like that's how they got out.
Yeah,
show us the door.
But I wonder how much of this. You can't like talk on like production issues and stuff, but I really wonder if there was like there was just a bunch of scenes they showcased to make this better, but like Matt was there or something like that, and they just had to cut it all, where he was supposed to be in there. Like he was supposed to be a big part of this in this episode, and it's just the whole thing with Perrin fighting Padan Fain. Which I love. I actually like that. I like Padan Fain a lot. I'm glad that he actually eventually shows up.
So he is a dark friend. Okay. Yeah, we've determined he is a dark friend.
He is a dark friend. He is a pretty like I'm wondering how they're gonna work with this character going forward, but like if you notice in the first episode, Matt and him have a confrontation. They talk, they have a relationship in the first episode. Like he's like with the lanterns and trying to buy things, and they have a connection. There's a rumor, some people were telling me, I was like talking to, like they think Matt was supposed to fight Padan Fain in that scene because they have a little bit more of a sort of like history. And
because he would tell him stuff that he'd stolen. He'd fence goods right to him. And
so it would have been interesting to see that. But then I wonder, like, that's the one thing about this whole series, the whole season that I'm mostly disappointed with is they did not handle Perrin as good as I'd like them to. Like, he's probably my least favorite character in this first season.
Confusing what he does and what he is, and what his motivations are for anything. He's just like a big dude that's like lumbering around right now, like without a motivation.
And like, I mean, it's sort of
the way of belief and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that ended, and it's not like he's taken it up himself. He's like, it was never really implied. Like now I'm taking up the way of the leaf.
Even though they almost they almost hint at it at this episode too. He's like, "Well, I can't. How am I supposed to help?" But the way of the leaf. It's like, when did you start caring about this stuff? Have you been trying to do this? You haven't mentioned it before.
Yeah, I thought you thought they were just weirdos that you guys got some food and shelter from.
Yeah, like it makes me wonder what they're because like even like in episode 7, they just have like Perrin make a comment like walking around. It's like, oh, I think I just saw Padan Fain. Like it's sort of like they just kind of like are trying to like fix this issue with Pat because they need to bring Padan Fain there. That has to happen. But Perrin really wasn't supposed to be the person that fights him. That's my guess because thematically it would make sense. I feel like it would make a lot more sense having Matt be the one to confront him, or maybe confronting him together with Perrin. That could have been a little bit more interesting, I think, than Perrin by himself.
I mean, it could have been Matt, because it seems like they had. It seems like Padan Fain was kind of like nurturing Matt's darker sides because he's buying these stolen goods from him. Like it's good enough to get you some lanterns.
Yeah.
He's kind of nurturing Matt's bad habits, so he could have been doing this for years, and Matt confronting him, yeah, it makes more sense, I guess. And maybe Pat and Fane kind of like talking to him too would have ended up with the same thing. Not them fighting, but them talking. And him saying, like, you can't attack me. He's like, you got a little bit of the dark in you. Like, you need dark and light. You need them both.
Yeah, and he kind of says those things to Perrin, too, but it doesn't...
But it doesn't make sense talking to Perrin. Why the fuck is he talking to Perrin?
Yeah,
like, Perrin just comes in.
He's like, oh, see, you always...
Like, he knows, like, oh, wave the leaf. You wouldn't do that, huh?
It's like, oh, see, you pick up the axe. There's always a darkness in all of us. We always choose the dark. Like, that seems like something he would say to Matt, not Perrin. You know, like...
I would like to dig in a little bit more and find out why, like, what scene, like, were there scenes with this Matt guy that they filmed and they just had to cut, and they ended up, I don't know.
I think they just had a script and he left before it happened. That was my guess, but regardless, so you do get a shot of Matt in this episode with him just going back to the city where the dagger was, which is weird. I don't even know what to. It's like a quick shot.
Is that where he was going?
Yeah, that's Shadow Lagoth. That's where he was.
Oh my gosh.
So I really, that's like my biggest question going forward after this episode is like, what is Matt gonna do? Like I have no information on that. And you know, it's like that's the nice thing about the show is that I have been surprised, even though I know sort of the grand scheme of things.
Sure.
I have actually been quite surprised. I mean, a lot of the stuff is surprising. I mean, I love the reference of the Horn of Valere. That's a big part in the second book.
Yes.
And you don't get to see it, which like got me hooked right there. Like, come on, I want to see the Horn of Valere. If you just see a box, you don't see the horn.
Well, you know what's funny? That is such a MacGuffin scene. You know, like we're digging this thing that's like hidden under the throne, and you know, of course, what could possibly go wrong? We need this important item. I'm like, of course, it's going to fall into, you know, evil's hands. Like it didn't. I don't know. It was like, why are you digging it up? What? Okay. Anyways,
I mean, I know why, but I won't say why.
It's got to be blown at the last battle. That's all they said. Like the dragon's got to blow it at the last battle.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, cool.
Yep.
He's already gone though. Did you know that? Like he's miles away. But
I'll give you a hint using a Lord of the Rings reference.
Sure.
Think about what Aragorn had to go get before at the end of Return of the King.
At the end of Return of the King, what he had to go get?
Mm-hmm. He had to go get some reinforcements.
Oh, so okay, Army of the Dead. I thought that's what you were implying, but it's not at the end. Like the like the whole secret. Like he goes, all right, yeah. The
end of the first half of the 7 endings that happened in that movie. So you know,
you gave us your word.
It's sort of like that, not quite, but anyways, what was I gonna say? I lost my train of thought. But fun fact: the horn isn't supposed to be there. It's supposed to be at the bottom of the Eye of the World. That's where they technically find it. It's just random, but you know, it's.
What do you think of their choice to make the Eye of the World just some pit with a yin yang sign on it?
Well, I mean, the yin yang is sort of a common thing. I mean, that didn't bother me that much, I guess.
No. The yin yang sign is not the problem. I'm just describing you exactly what it was. A pit. Like a little pit. With
I mean, that's technically
that's the Eye of the World.
Technically, that's what it was described as. So, like, to me, it was like, all right, makes sense. I don't know. It was like,
why is it called an eye? Won't someone tell me? That you can't call the title of a book and this episode "The Eye of the World" without telling me what the hell.
It just looks like an eye. It's just a. It's just like it's like a seventh wonder of the world that looks like an eye, so they call it the Eye of the World. I don't know, that's the best thing I could describe it. But like, I just envision that like we're seeing the version where they drained all the Sedine out of it. So that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing the pool of water or this pool of source. Honestly, that would have been really cool. Like if they just had it filled with a bunch of like swirling source, like that would have been cooler. But no, they just had to make it just a pit. because it is kind of a pit. I mean, that's sort of what it is and supposed to be.
Yeah.
Why they call it the Eye of the World, I don't know. I can't remember if there's a lore answer to that question. Like, again, it's so confusing, to be quite honest. I just took it as it is. It's like, oh, this place is called the Eye of the World. Okay, makes sense. Circle, pit.
And like, why is it there? Is it called the Eye of the World because that's where the Dark One's prison is, or was it something before and that's just where they imprisoned the Dark One? Those are my questions. You obviously don't have to answer these questions.
I don't think there is an answer, to be quite honest.
Right. Great. Despite these things. Oh, by the way, I wanted to tell you, I feel like the way this show is shot and like the budget, it almost feels like soap opera-ish, because they really are kind of like going for the character moments and trying to push you. The effects stuff is like, okay, we got to put together a big fight sequence, and they're doing the best they can. That fight on the plains of Faldara, like that is a perfect example of that. But their character stuff and relationship, conveyance, I think is fine, and it reminds me almost of a soap opera, because this is going to be a long running thing. Like, that's the intent, right? They were talking about what, 6 or 8 seasons.
I think they already said Amazon wants to cover all 14 books, 15 books if you count New Spring. They have second season greenlit. I don't know how we could condense it. I mean, based on my understanding of book 7 and 8, like, which is kind of long-winded, I could see them doing 8, but I don't know the end of it. So, like, I don't really know how much is there. But from my understanding, that Brandon Sanderson, who took over the books after Robin Jordan passed away, was a lot faster at writing. Yeah. As far as, like, not even like, but I'm not saying like speed of writing. I meant like
getting to the point faster.
Yeah, like you got from point A to point B, and it was exciting and entertaining, and he fixed a lot of loose ends that Robert Jordan would just let linger for way too long. Like I mentioned, like the relationship of Lan and DNA lasting 6-7 books or whatever. It's a slow build up.
Yeah, well, it feels like it's 6 to 7 books. Feels a little like overkill to get these two characters that clearly,
To be fair, though, Nia Na wasn't a main character in the first book as much. Like, you didn't get her perspective as much. So, like, they just kind of saved her perspective of falling in love with Lan until later books, and you slowly got that information. Like, and eventually it just became more prominent as things go on, and honestly, like, it just, like, they treated it as like, oh, well, I guess I can't do it because Moraine's in the way, and I guess she kind of hints at it in episode 8, where it's like, I'm going to go become an Aes Sedai, and, like, I'm going to do whatever I can to, because she just wants to bond with him. Like, that's, like, her main focus, her main priority now, even though she's a wisdom. And, like, he does quote things from the books that, like things that were from later books. It's like, I'd be so jealous of the man that you pick, but also happy if he makes you smile or something like that. Those are all, like, words that they have said to each other. And I appreciate that. I mean, it's kind of maybe making it happen a little too fast, but, like, I guess they just had sex, so, I mean, I guess it made sense.
Why not? I mean, they're basically, this is all, like, apocalyptic. It's like, why not? Why not do, that last night that they had together when they did make love? Yeah. And he's like, stay. Like, why are you leaving? Like, this is...
Yeah, I know. I asked that question for, like, 7 books. I'm like, what's the thing wrong? But you said, I wanted to say, like, you said soap opera. Like, honestly, the book is very soap opera-ish. Like, there is a lot of that. Like, it's like... And it's not a bad thing. Like, there's something about, like, just, like, people having, like, relationship problems and connections with people and reading about them and hearing their inner monologues. You get this person's perspective, you get this person's perspective, and you're like, you kind of want them to meet. Do you want that moment to happen where they both, like, start understanding each other? There's something nice about reading that and seeing the journey and how it gets there. Robert Jordan was kind of slow at that, but like it almost had made it somewhat entertaining when it actually happened. So it's like, because he would always bring in new characters all the time. That's kind of why it was slow. It's like, all right, well, you worried about these two people, but guess what? You're gonna now worry about these two people and these two people and these two people and these two people. Oh yeah, forgot about these two people. And then you start like you get this like gigantic cast of characters in the series, and it's like, and that's what really kind of sucks you in. It's like every episode, every chapter becomes sort of important to you. Where it's like, oh, we're back to Matt. I want to learn about Matt. Matt's really cool. Parrot again, great. Oh, Egwin's doing something cool now. Like, oh, Rand's doing all that. Like, you kind of like love everyone, but then you hate everyone at the same time because you hear the perspective of like other characters hate like their annoyances of each other, but then their love for each other. So yeah, I'm going on a tangent, but yeah, that's my
soap opera. It's very soap opera-ish, and it's.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the, you know, some like the characters are young, so he's focusing on these, like, especially in the books, and they're trying to translate those same kinds of relationships, even though they are older here. Like I feel like that's what's also bothering me. It's like these characters, that character of Rand shouldn't be doing the 15-year-old boy, like, if you love me, you'd stay with me. You know, like
20-year-olds still make stupid things like that, though.
Sure, but he's a little old for that. Like, he's, you know. Anyways, but I understand it's his first real girlfriend. Okay, but it's still like it is very much a soap opera, and the types of characters that Jordan is writing are these kind of younger characters that focus on these little like intricacies of the relationship, and like, oh well, he shunned me, or she you know, said a jerky thing. He says a jerky thing to Egwene, I think in the last episode. Like, she comes and finds him and is like, I've been waiting for you to come and apologize to me. And he's like, well, it's my experience that you'd always come and find me. And I'm like, that came from the book, because this did not land as a line written for two people to be saying, like, Rand is a jerk, like, to her a little bit, but like, he's not that kind of jerk. Oh, weird.
Egwene's and I'm curious how they're going to play this off, because Egwene's and Rand's actual relationship is it's still, it matches right now.
Yeah.
I just wonder, knowing what I know later on, but like, anyways, that's beside the point.
Besides all these things, though, I am looking forward to the next season. I really do want to see what happens next.
Couple highlights besides the end of the episode, like the main epic things, like you got like the Horn of Valir. Yep. That's exciting to come up and stuff. Min, I want to touch on a little bit, because like Min is probably one of my favorite characters from the books, and I feel like she didn't get like a huge spotlight in the series except for the last few episodes. I love Min. Like I was really excited to see her character and learn how they were going to represent her. At first, I wasn't sure. I was like, that's not how I pictured her. But it wasn't until the moment where she's like on like this like convoy running away from the city that they shoot a shot of her, right? I'm like, oh, that's Min. Like, I saw it finally. I'm like, okay, I see it now. But I've always loved Min, because you said you like that Min's like the one that can tell the future and see the visions and all that stuff.
You can see the pattern like a little bit ahead of everybody else. Like, that's I like the way that they presented that.
But she mentions a phrase that I really wish they would have brought up earlier in the season, and it's what's called being a Talverne. And like that's the connection that she's amongst them, and I feel like that's a really important thing that I wish they would have explained a little bit more to people. Because
explain it? How would you explain it?
It's not even like it's not even like she explains it fine. Like, it's like they're connected to each other and da-da-da-da-da. But like that's the reason why Moraine thinks all these people are Dragon Reborn, is because they are Tavern. That's the whole purpose of it.
And their destinies are all intertwined, and
they intertwine other people's destinies. They can weave destiny, or weave the will, or weave the wheel, or whatever, the threads of destiny, because it's all based on a metaphor of being threads. Like, threads are kind of like brought, like, you think of, my take on like that metaphor they always explain what a Tavernier is, like, think of chaos theory. right? Like you have the string theory, and like you only get the scene where you get the strings all over the place and attaching to different things, trying to make the connections of like some sort of theory, right? Well, for some reason, they could take those threads and just pull them to themselves. That's just they just have an aura, or like an ambient, or it's like a sort of a way to control destiny and change destiny to fit their will. And that's what a Tavern really is. And they somehow are all connected to each other, so they are grabbing and pulling to each other constantly. It's just a way of describing. It's honestly, it's a very metaphoric. When it's written in the book, it's very metaphorically explained. Like that, it's honestly, it's sort of a cheap way of just saying, well, they're always going to end up with each other because they are just they're Tavern.
They're connected.
They're connected. You know, it's like
you're not like one of them's not gonna like leave like Matt did. Bam. Because they're all connected.
But he'll always come back. He'll always come back.
Okay.
And because they're Tavern, and that's why Laurel's following them, because they're Tavern. But like, I just think like it was such a really weird way to bring it up in the last episode, where you could easily have brought that up. It's like you could have done that in Tar-Valon. It's like, oh yeah, that's right, Moraine. They could all be the dragon. They're all Tavern. Like just explaining what that is. Like, you know, like adding to that, you know, a little bit more. You know, like,
you know, they could have had less Nynaeve awkward staring and stalking, and more Moraine describing what the hell is going on. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Yeah,
for next season. Hopefully.
Yeah.
I think they resolved the Nynaeve thing, so maybe they don't have to do all this bullshit next season.
Yeah, just hoping.
Let's just get this. Let's get them together and
she mentions it. So hopefully next season, like my ask for next season is like them doing the training at the White Tower, because those are some of my favorite moments reading in the book is Egwene and Nynaeve training, because that's supposedly what's supposed to happen next. Like again, I can probably try to spoil this to you, but then it doesn't end up happening because they tweaked it or changed it or do something different. You know, it's like
they may do a time jump as well. You know, they might just.
But like Rand leaving at the end throws me off completely. Like I don't know what to expect.
What does he do in the end of the book?
They go to Faldera because they never went there yet.
Oh, but okay, so the same kind of thing happens. The Heartstone, everything.
Like the breaking of the seal happens, sort of, and he defeats the Dark One, and technically he's the one that takes up the army in the book with some crazy channeling of power. Like he just destroys the army.
Oh.
That's the only reference. Yeah, like he just goes nuts. Like it's so chaotic, Paul. Like I can't. Like I would probably have to read like 3 more times just to explain it to you. But like it's just nuts what happens at the end of Otherworld.
All right.
It's cool. Like it's like it made me want to read the next book. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. What the hell happened? Please, I want to read the next book so they can explain it to me. You know, it's like. But like,
well, Justin, I'm looking forward to the next season to explain what the hell happened in this episode, because they clearly have a plan. That's what I keep coming back to, is the people that are making this are clearly fans of it. They're not just like coming to it new and trying to adapt something that they're not familiar with. So if they're doing it this way, they're thinking a couple steps ahead how this will pan out, and that's what I have to have confidence in. Is that they understand, you know, the story and where they need to go. And they might have to take us a little different way to get there, but we'll still get there along the way.
One last part about the episode 8, though. I know we've been doing this long. Thoughts on the last scene. The very last scene.
Oh, yes. It was almost like an after-the-credits stinger type of scene, right? So it's a seashore village, and the Easterlings show up. That's what I immediately thought of.
The Easterlings?
The Easterlings from Lord of the Rings. I forget the other name for them. The Haradrim. They just show up. Instead of being on Mumakil, giant elephants, they're on cool spiked ships. And they have channelers that make big waves.
Do you know what their actual names are?
I believe you wrote it to me, but I didn't know how to say it. So go ahead and tell me.
There's a Sea-Chan. So Sea-Chan.
Sea-Chan. Okay.
So something I'll add a little context to that scene, because like you have the channelers that can make waves, right? But you'll notice that you had like these people in front of the channelers that had like masks on.
Yes.
So they enslave channelers
Okay, that's what I thought.
to
That's what I thought.
to use them as almost a weapon to channel. It's like
Yep.
it's so weird.
Okay.
Like in the book, they're described it's like a necklace, like an actual like collar, almost like a pet almost. And then but here they just decide like I guess they put things in their mouth. I don't know, like
And I do remember our mutual friend talking about like maybe I read this. I remember them saying like there was even cultures that hated Aes Sedai, and then there were some that even enslaved them and carried them around like pets. Like I remember that, like leashed pets.
The Sea Chan is like where I like start like this. Like when I started reading about the Sea Chan, like the Isle World like hooked me to like get interested in the series, right? But like when I read The Great Hunt, which is the next book, which the hunt is related to the Hunt of Valere. The Horn of Valere is the Great Hunt, so they're hunting the Horn of Valere. That's what it's referencing. But anyways, like when you get to the point where the Sea Chan are prominent, like I was like, oh man, this is an awesome series. Like I was really loving the Sea Chan so much. Like I just like the whole what do you want to call it, like story arc of the Sea Chan and like their presence and their purpose and the reason they're there and what they're trying to do and like the all the things that happen with that. Like I seeing them at the end of this season made me extremely excited because I was not expecting to see him this season at all. And
it was a cool sequence, and they look like a very interesting group of people. So yeah, we'll look forward to seeing how that pans out. Now I'm a little bit more excited to hear that they play a very prominent role. And that it was those people that like enslave Aes Sedai to do their bidding, or channelers. They're not Aes Sedai. They're just broken channel. They've like
both. They do. They can enslave Aes Sedai, obviously. So
sure. They don't discriminate.
Yeah, you can channel. Oh, great! You can be enslaved. So you're welcome.
All channelers are welcome to be enslaved.
I'm excited for. Overall, though, I am happy with this adaptation. I guess I'm just happy to get it. To be quite honest, like I could probably pick this show apart, but for overall, there's a lot of things I like about it.
Really, out of 8 episodes, we got a lot of good episodes and a lot of good scenes. And even though it felt like this was a really weak episode to be the finale, it was still good. Like the whole Faldaris sequence from these last 2 episodes has been great. I was sad to see Loyal die, though. That was heartbreaking a little bit. And here's the thing: we were like he's an ogre. Maybe he's just got like really strong, constitution. And so I started doing this to Kristen. I would like act like Loya. I'd be like turning over, like, "Whoa, gosh, ouch, that hurt quite a bit, human." Like he just like starts getting up and is like, "Oh, that really stung right in the side." Like I just imagine that maybe he might. Okay, so
I can reassure you that Laurel is not supposed to be dead.
Okay.
And I've jokingly said if he is dead, I riot and I no longer watch the show.
Okay. Seems like, it seemed weird that they set him up so much just to have him die like that. And I felt like more was coming, and they made such a big deal in the behind the scenes stuff about
I feel like there's a moment
fan favorite to the screen.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I feel like because the moment with Pat and Fane like taking the horn, that does technically kind of happen, and I feel like during that whole sequence, because this happens technically in the second book, that I think he does get stabbed, or like looks like he gets hurt, and I have to double check on this, but I feel like he says like, "Oh yeah, ogres don't have the same anatomy as humans, so our hearts are in our butts," or like something stupid like that. Like it's like
our hearts are in the right place in our butts.
I don't know. I can't remember. I'm probably honestly making this up. I've had some whiskey here, so
we're going to come up with a playing favorite Valentine this year, and it's going to be like, "Whoop! Our hearts are in the right places in our butts." Like we'll have a picture of Loyal. Yep. We're making Valentine's this year.
I think Loyal is gonna be fine. I mean, honestly, they put a lot of work into making that character.
Just have him like straight stabbed and just like drop like that. Like, like I really was hoping of like maybe he'll just turn over and be like, oh.
It was
really,
anticlimactic
really
though. It's like they didn't make a big deal about it in the show. It's like, did you notice though? Like, I know we're going long, but I want to say something. In episode 7, they come out of the ways, right? They get out of the ways of episode 7. You don't see Loyal the rest of the episode. Like, where did he go?
No, he's just following along. He's so slow. He's just walking way behind. He's just walking into Faldara as Rand and Moiraine are leaving.
And I think the next time you see him, he's just in the bar. Like, I don't understand what he's doing the whole time.
Right. He's just at the bar. He's like, I'm just drinking. I just came to read the signs. I don't have anything else to do. My friendship with Rand hasn't developed yet. I don't care. Just drinking.
I haven't learned that you guys are Tavern yet. I have no care about you people.
He knows there are Islemen, right? So, Islemen? Whatever. That Rand is. Anyways.
Overall,
yes,
I'm excited.
I do look forward to season 2. I think it was a good first season.
Yeah, good first season. Could have made some changes here and there, but like I am happy.
Yep.
I'm
but
just
it's the
overall
first
happy.
Season.
Yeah.
The first season. They got me interested. I definitely want to see what the Red Aja's punishment was, though. Still want to know what happened.
I'm curious how they're going
but
to do.
Anyways, well, this has been fun. So I guess we'll just have to see when we find out something about season 2 and talk about when we will plan doing something like this again.
Yeah, no. Until then, just check up our YouTube channel. We'll be doing some podcasts. I think our holiday special is going to be coming up soon. Hopefully, right?
Yep, we're going to be doing it. So
check our YouTube channel. Like, subscribe. What did you guys think of the last episode of Real Time? Just tell us in the comments.
What were your thoughts about it? Did you enjoy it? Did you think it could have been better? What would you have done differently? And what are you excited for season 2? So, well, this has been Playing Favorites. I'm Paul.
I'm Justin.
So long.